The Minnesota state budget is managed through a variety of funds. This combination of state and federal dollars could be thought of as having separate checkbooks. Within each is an amount of money that together pays for the operation of state government. Of all funds, the State General Fund is by far the largest and most significant.
The Minnesota state budget is composed of roughly 36 or so separate funds. The largest of these funds is the State General Fund. And as the name implies, the general fund is just that. It's general, and it is used to finance a wide array of state government functions, anything from education to healthcare, to the environment, to perhaps debt on the state's long-term obligations.
The general fund is considered a non-dedicated fund, meaning there are very few restrictions on how the legislature can spend that money. Most of the other funds that make up the remainder of the state budget are considered to be dedicated funds. Money in these funds must be used for specific purposes. For example, the state receives money from the federal government dedicated for Medicaid payments or highway construction, while other state dollars are dedicated for things like the Healthcare Access Fund or natural resources. Because the general fund is highly flexible, it can be used to move state dollars to and from many areas of need. It is also unique because it must be affirmatively enacted every 2 years. This is different from many dedicated funds in the budget. The legislature, with the concurrence of the governor, must enact general fund appropriations every 2 years to provide the resources for the operations of state government.
The general fund tends to receive the vast majority of attention during the public budget process debate at the state capitol. It is the fund that most members look to when they're looking to make a specific appropriation for a project because of its flexibility. It gives legislators that opportunity to appropriate money for a particular program. After the budget has been enacted, the economy can change, priorities of elected officials can change, and frankly, politics can intervene. Circumstances create the need, in many occasions, for the legislature to reevaluate the existing budget and make changes. Having a 2-year budget cycle provides the legislature and the governor that opportunity to give the budget some attention over time. And a large part of the attention that the legislature gives is centered on the general fund. And this is because of its size and its primarily flexibility as a resource that can be used for an infinite number of purposes.
Money coming into the state is deposited into the appropriate funds. Revenue directed to the general fund comes from numerous sources, but 2 areas in particular make up the bulk of the fund.
Over 3/4 of the general fund is collected from the income tax and the sales tax. There are other taxes that contribute to the general fund as well. These include the statewide property tax, corporate business taxes, taxes on cigarette sales, taxes on alcohol sales, and a variety of other revenue sources. These other revenue sources are a much smaller contributor to the general fund. What this practically means, though, is that the general fund's primary revenue sources, income tax and sales tax, are highly sensitive to the overall state of Minnesota's economy. So when the economy does well, these taxes perform well, and the general fund tends to grow. Conversely, when the economy slumps, income and sales taxes tend to slide, and the general fund tends to suffer. That is one of the beauties of having a 2-year budget process, that the legislature can come in every 2 years, and frankly, frequently in the off year as well, to adjust the budget.
Once money is deposited into the general fund, it is distributed to many areas of the state budget, but concentrated largely in 2 specific areas.
By and large, the vast majority of the appropriations out of the state general fund are distributed to elementary and secondary education and health and human services budget areas. The elementary and secondary education appropriations constitute about 40% of state general fund appropriations. These are appropriations to state school districts, charter schools, and a variety of education programs. Over 30% of the appropriations from the general fund are allocated to health and human services, and these are primarily healthcare payments on behalf of low-income, elderly, and disabled individuals. The remaining 30% of appropriations in the general fund are a collection of other state programs, anything from the environment to debt service on state long-term obligations, state agencies, economic development, and higher education.
The State General Fund is the largest of all funds that make up the state operating budget. It is considered to be a non-dedicated fund, meaning it can be used for just about any state government purpose. On occasion, revenues from other funds may be transferred into the general fund, or money from the general fund may be transferred out to meet a specific need. Because of this flexibility, the general fund plays a central role in the state budget process. Find out more about Minnesota's budget process at the Minnesota Management and Budget website.